A view of what we see and are experiencing at the British Grooms Association and Equestrian Employers Association. From the 1st of April, the National Living Wage and National Minimum Wage rises. The Low Pay Commission have already identified the equestrian industry as one of low pay. Every survey identifies that about 40% are paid below the legal minimum hourly rate. The HMRC have noted the equestrian sector as one of non-compliance, and there has been a targeted focus over the past 3 years. The Conservative manifesto pledged that the national living wage will rise to £10.50 per hour in 2 years' time on the 1st of April 2024. If you take the average groom like Georgina, who's 28 years old, works a 5.5-day week, 7:30 till 5:30, resulting in a 50-hour week, her annual salary on the new rate of £9.50 per hour will increase by £1,534. If the manifesto pledge is upheld from today, her salary will have risen by £4,134 in just 2 years' time. Now imagine this calculation for a business with, say, 5 or 6 members of staff. The EEA recently ran a survey to discover what the real impact of the rise would be to equestrian employers. Of the respondents, 15% paid higher than the national minimum wage or national living wage to their staff. Of the remainder, 96% were worried about the impact the rise will have on their business. 30% had not yet calculated the cost increase to their business. 85% said they will have to consider increasing their livery fees, and 38% were concerned that their business will no longer be viable with the increase. 41% stated there would have to be changes to, or the loss of staff from their workforce, and 71% have said they don't think their business will cope with further increases in 2 years' time. It should be noted that typically employers that take part in surveys are those that are performing best or at least better practices. Although some employers recognise the need for staff to have increased wages in line with the cost of living, the majority of comments described a real concern over the viability of their businesses. Some employers described difficulties with clients not fully understanding the financial challenges of running an equestrian establishment, and some reported that they had real concerns that their clients wouldn't be able to afford an increase in the cost of services, particularly livery charges. So how does an equestrian business afford the latest wage bill increases and remain viable? This is particularly concerning in the professional competition yards, who struggle to operate with efficiencies in regards to the working hours of the day. My biggest concern is a potential rise of substandard employment as a result, and in particular an increase in cases of false self-employment. Most days I receive a phone call such as the one from Jenny last week. She called the BGA as her employer had said she needed to purchase groom liability insurance for herself. She worked on an event yard since January 2018. She was told she was self-employed upon starting the job, has no contract, works a 6-day week and never finishes on time. Her accommodation is charged £130 a week, and she gives her employer the hours that she has worked each week, and then she's paid in cash. She has never had any paid annual leave, and with the overtime considered, we calculated she's owed in the region of £12,000 of unpaid wages. This is just another case of false self-employment. The lack of awareness of employment status in our industry is alarming. Retention has always been a key issue. Working hands-on with horses for some will never be a forever career path. That is okay and normal. When a member leaves us at the BGA, we always ask why. Sometimes it's due to a natural change of career or having children or an injury. However, more often than not, it's due to their experience of poor employment practices that they choose to exit our industry, with false self-employment being the most common reason. To have a sustainable workforce, we as an industry together must ensure that good employment is the norm. Parents, are you confident that your son or daughter would be employed correctly if they chose to work with horses? At an event, are you confident that every horse box that parks up is a compliant employer? There are some excellent employers, and over the past 15 years, I genuinely believe they have grown in number. However, our research shows that it is currently not always the case, and we have to do better. At the EEA, we have created the Code of Good Employment to provide a framework to strengthen good practices and ensure businesses are legal and well run. Fiona runs Kingsmead Riding School and Livery Yard. She's a signatory to the Code of Good Employment. She adheres to all the legal requirements: correct employment status for all staff, written contracts before the start date, staff handbooks and general standard HR policies and practices exist. She pays correctly. All employees are paid at least the national minimum wage, national living wage. Overtime is paid or time off in lieu, and staff are paid on PAYE and pay slips. Pension requirements are adhered to if applicable. In addition to legal employment, she practices good management, which aids in the motivation and retention of her workforce. Staff will still come and go, but no member of the workforce has ever left due to poor employment. Imagine if this was the norm across our entire sector. How many grooms would be saved from leaving? 19 years ago, I spoke at the National Equine Forum about the need for grooms to be recognised for the role they perform. I believe that now, at the elite level of our sports, that grooms are recognised for their skill and professionalism. Certainly, our BGA patron Charlotte Dujardin has made such an impact with her public applause of her groom, Alan Davis. However, it is disappointing, despite all our hard work and my outspoken words, that nearly 20 years on, when we ran a survey just last week, yet again we have a figure of 47% of grooms that responded not being given a written contract of employment. This invariably also means that they're likely to be missing out on many other basic employment rights. It must be noted that if a groom works in racing or the riding school sector, they are likely to be employed legally, as thanks to those licensing systems, good employment is more the norm. To create a contract is no longer a hurdle for an employer. The EEA has a smart online tool which produces a bespoke solicitor written version. Over 3,000 written contracts have been created using the EEA contract creator. The EEA has only existed for 4 years, and we have helped thousands of employers to manage their businesses legally and sustainably. There has to be a cultural shift, and urgently, because without one, the yards who are not like Fiona's are draining our pool of passionate, capable future grooms. So to solutions. Service charges must increase. The National Minimum Wage Survey highlighted that prices must rise. Keeping horses will become more expensive, and especially in the competition sectors where a groom is often working a 60-hour week or more. Yards need to become more business focused. Whilst there are employers that adhere to good employment and are viable, there are others who sadly don't. They cannot continue to trade, leaning on their workforce to prop up the business by working below the legal minimum and by using false self-employment to avoid tax, national insurance, pension and employer liability insurance requirements. We need to modernise the working day to be affordable. Viability includes the affordability of the workforce, and as a sector, I believe we need to modernise our practices to become viable. For example, do all staff really need to be on the yard 6 days a week at 7 AM to feed? How can a more flexible approach without compromising the welfare of the horse bring down the wage bill, but also in turn a work-life balance that is desired nowadays? Perhaps it's time to accept that the things we did in the past are no longer affordable. We need continued education about employment rights and responsibilities. It's key, and it's all of our responsibility to share it. And we need to be creative in our recruitment. By working in collaboration, we must try to promote working with horses as a great career, because I believe it can be one. Think outside the box. The Return to Work Mum is a great example. We need to offer employment opportunities that are attractive. Let's ask ourselves, does it really matter if the horses are mucked out between school hours instead of the traditional 7 to 9 AM? And we must continue to modernise to retain our employees by becoming an industry of good employment. We need employers to accept that it is their responsibility to employ by the laws of our land. Over the last 15 years, the industry has taken big steps forward, However, we still have a long way to go. The key to a sustainable workforce is good employment, which can be easily achieved through correct business management.